All right, guys, welcome to Beyond the Muscle. I'm really excited to welcome our next guest, Zack Moore. Zack is a natural bodybuilder who's currently doing his first contest prep. And yeah, he's got an incredible physique, and I'm excited to see how his first season unfolds. Zack is also a type 1 diabetic and has faced, quite a few challenges on that front along the way, which we're going to delve into a little bit. Welcome, Zack. How are things going?
Yeah, thanks for having me, dude. I'm excited to be on. Things are going well at the moment,
Yeah, yeah,
for sure.
good. Good to hear. Yeah, you mentioned you're 3 weeks into contest prep. So would this be the first time you've actually done a first? You mentioned you did like a little
Mhm.
practice prep.
Yeah,
Yeah, talk us through that. How did that go?
that went really well. The biggest challenge was learning how to cope with type one during a deficit because I hadn't done that to that point.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so there's a couple different strategies to maintain the deficit because when you have a low blood sugar, a hypoglycemic event, you have no choice but to take in more carbohydrates to bring
Yeah,
your blood sugar back up.
yeah.
And so if you mess up your treatments enough time, and they're life is chaos, and so predicting insulin treatments is it's a constant adjustment. And so if you bring together a few missed dosages in a day, you can easily put yourself 600, 700 calories above maintenance.
Right, right. Well,
So, you can have one day throw off a whole week. And so what we tried to do was um, minimize or have a balancing scale sort of between carbohydrates and fats, and
right, right.
try to schedule the carbs so that there's at least some consistency. And there's never going to be consistency with like because your energy expenditure and your glycogen levels they're going to fluctuate, and
Mm-hmm.
so it's a constant moving target.
Yeah.
But being able to offset an unplanned increase in carbohydrates
Mm-hmm.
with a decrease in fats can help. And then I started to like rob from my high days on the weekend.
Right, right.
So if I have to increase calories during the week, then I'll try to minimize it on one of the weekends.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that's like a really unique obstacle that, most other bodybuilders won't have to deal with. But yeah, that's got to make things
Right.
pretty challenging for
It
sure.
makes it more stressful,
Yeah, I can
because
imagine.
it's one of those things where you control what you control, but with diabetes, there's over 42 factors that influence any given insulin dosage.
Right.
Of course, there are the primary ones, but even if you perfectly account for the primary ones that are, fairly easily quantifiable,
Hmm.
there's a myriad of other factors to where you can't,
Yeah,
and so it's about constant adjustment to what actually happens versus trying to plan ahead.
I
You can
see.
plan as best as you can, but stuff happens.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, well, I definitely wish you all the best. I hope this
Thank
prep
you.
goes well for you. Before you delve into things, you mentioned something quite interesting on Natty News Daily. Like you posed the question, does more muscle make you happier? And it kind of got me thinking because
Mhm.
like me personally, I'm generally happy when I'm a bit more muscular. But that's because I
Yeah.
think, bodybuilding, it gives me like a tremendous sense of purpose.
Hmm.
And it makes me think of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So for example, like I've got all my base needs taken care of, food, shelter, family and friends and that. And yeah, I like being muscular so that I can kind of think about the higher up ones. And
Sure.
yeah, for me, like bodybuilding is like a way to express myself. It's like an art form, I suppose.
Right.
But yeah, I suppose it's not just bigger muscles like for the sake of it or to hide an insecurity, which may be some people's like motivation, I guess. But yeah, I suppose that's who you were kind of speaking to with that
Mm.
weren't you? When it's a case of speak to that comment actually, because I found it really interesting when you mentioned them.
That came from uh, my reasons for competing because
Yes.
I found it really difficult to ever have a reason to step on stage before getting diagnosed. I could never find a compelling reason, a reason that would allow me to get fulfillment from competing that I wouldn't be able to get from not competing.
Right.
Because I think this isn't negative towards competitive bodybuilding. It may come off that way, but
No, no.
I don't know that there's um, things that you can gain from competing that you can't without it. So like
Mm,
when you think about a competitor that doesn't perform well at a show, they're consoled by saying things like, you couldn't control who showed up.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, so I don't know what value there is in stepping on stage where it's inherently subjective and comparative.
Mm.
Because I feel like it almost detracts from the message of recreational bodybuilding, where it's like it's about self-improvement and
Yes.
learning through the struggles and being able to find enjoyment in the suffering. And
Mm.
I don't know what changes when you step on stage. I feel like it almost detracts from it.
Yeah, that's it's a really interesting point actually, because yeah, like you mentioned, like the journey is it's all about the journey. If you don't enjoy that, then yeah, there's no point. But yeah, it definitely got me thinking, and I think about my own motivations to step on stage, and yeah, provided you can beat yourself, that's the most important thing. And it is
Right.
self-improvement. I think it's self-improvement, but it's just taking it a bit further by stepping on stage and pushing
Mm.
yourself and seeing what you're capable of, I guess. But yeah, it's an
Yeah,
interesting
because
one.
that's what it boils down to is that it ends up being more of just a catalyst for the self-improvement, which it's not inherent to the journey itself. It's just something that aids you toward it. And so I don't, it's funky, and
Mm, yeah.
that's what's kept me from committing to competing. But once I got diagnosed, I there was something outside of my journey that it could positively impact. And even still, I feel conflicted because it feels like I'm writing on premises that I kind of disagree with to fulfill an end goal.
Mm, yeah, that's interesting. What would
Probably
you say?
overthinking it, but
No, no, no. It's I like to think about these things quite a lot as well. I'm the
yeah.
same as you. But yeah, it's funny. I had someone on recently, and I was like, yeah, we were t chatting about kind of motivations to compete, and it kind of got me thinking as well. But yeah, what is it that's driven you to compete this time, Zach, compared to before when you weren't really feeling it, the urge to compete?
It was getting diagnosed and
That
then
was it. Yeah, yeah. Sorry, I
volunteering,
missed that.
yeah, at the diabetes camps, like winter weekend.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I go to those, and I went into this not expecting what I ended up getting from being a counselor. It ended up
Mm,
being like the most important thing I'd ever done, being able to
wow.
be, I never wanted to be a role model. I never wanted to put myself in a spotlight. Like my bodybuilding journey before this, nobody knew who I was. I didn't care about posting about it.
Yeah.
But seeing that I can get people to want to better themselves has pushed me to step on stage, and
Mm.
hopefully it ends up helping some people, and
Yeah, that's amazing.
I've
Yeah,
been
yeah.
trying to draw a lot of attention to Memories Made. They're a charity that helps to send, because camp is expensive to put on, and so it costs money.
Hmm.
But they're a charity that helps to send type 1 children to these camps. They're kids like 6 to 17-year-olds is the age range, and it's an age where they're incredibly impressionable.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
on the younger side, it's the kids who have lived under their parents' thumb, 'cause
Right.
not in a bad sense, but it's inherent to being a type 1 child. Your parent handles your treatment.
Mm.
And so it can foster these relationships of sometimes overbearing control. And
Right.
so camp allows them the opportunity to take on responsibility for the disease, learn about it,
Mm.
see things, and being able to engage with other children that have type 1. They're no longer othered.
Yeah.
They're just a kid, and they can experience being just a kid.
Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah, that really is. That's something I'd never really considered. But yeah, I've got two kids as well, 4 and 8. And I suppose, yeah, as a parent, when a child has that, yeah, you're going to be very protective. So it makes
Mhm.
perfect sense. What kind of killer
Yeah.
age range of kids do you work with? So,
6 to 17 years old. And
oh, so a
yeah,
broad range. Yeah,
yeah,
amazing.
yeah. But they usually give me the older boys cabin because that's kind of like who I'd be most impressionable with.
Yeah, yeah. That's yeah, I'm sure you're having a very positive impact. But that's an amazing thing to do. Yeah, really cool. Um, so your first prep, we're going to delve back into the diabetes stuff as well. That's because it's
Sure.
yeah, there's definitely some interesting stuff to chat about there. So you're being coached by Alberto Nunez. Obviously, he's
Hmm.
someone I've looked up to for a long time, like we mentioned before, and that's how I discovered you. I remember seeing one of your physique updates, and yeah, your structure is just like ridiculous. And me and
Thank
my
you.
son we're watching Dragon Ball Z at the moment, and yeah, you've got like a Goku look about your physique for sure.
Yeah. I think
Um,
like a quarter of my comments are saying Baki
oh really?
in
Okay,
the
which I
bar.
haven't. I haven't met him yet because we're still quite early on. So we watched all of Dragon Ball and we're on to
It's a
Z
different
now.
anime.
Oh, it's different. Oh, okay. So it's
Yeah, it's
not, yeah,
different
yeah.
anime. Yeah, yeah.
I recognized the name. I didn't know if it was a Z character, but
Mm,
different anime.
yeah.
Going back to where it all began for you, Zach. So you mentioned on Natty News Daily that you were like a hyper responder to weight training. And yeah, I think I was, yeah, certainly as well. I definitely, yeah, I grew quite quickly. When did you discover you had a look suited to bodybuilding?
Before I even started going to the gym, because I
Oh,
had done
wow.
calisthenics and gymnastics type stuff before
Yeah.
that, and uh, the X frame is the X frame. It's
Mm,
what's desirable in a bodybuilding context, and
yeah.
you can't you can enhance the look of it, but you can't necessarily be born with like an outstanding, or you have to be born with an outstanding X frame. You know what I mean?
Mm, yeah, yeah. No, structure is so key when it comes to bodybuilding.
Yeah, which is
Yeah.
unfortunate.
Yeah, yeah, it is unfortunate. Yeah, it doesn't matter. I think even with like average genetics, you can still build a tremendous physique. But yeah,
Yeah.
structure it goes a tremendously long way.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Um, so when do you start training, Zach? How old were you when you started lifting?
I was 15 years old when I started weight training, but I'd been
Mm.
doing like body weight stuff since sixth grade, I think.
Okay. Oh wow. So from pretty young. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's cool. Was the gym something you kind of fell in love with straight away, or did it take a bit of time?
No, it was immediate.
Was
Like
it?
as soon as I stepped in, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
which is probably heavily reinforced by that getting like that positive reinforcement
Mm.
of fast results.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so it definitely got me addicted to it early on.
Yeah, yeah. No, that it helps, doesn't it? Yeah, being good at something, seeing results. Yeah, it definitely helps. And
Yeah, it's such a woe is me thing, but like when you play a video game, do you put it
mm,
on the easiest setting?
hmm Yeah, yeah. Oh, do I when I play?
Yeah,
No, no, no. It depends what kind of game.
you
I'm a
don't.
bit of a
Yeah,
gamer myself. I go
you
medium or
don't. You
hard,
don't really.
depending what it is.
Yeah, and why don't you put it on the easiest setting?
This is not a challenge for me. It's boring.
Right.
Mm.
Yes, and it's a very much a woe is me thing, but training has been easy, and it's
Mm.
I kind of have difficulty finding like I find enjoyment in the progress,
Yeah.
but it's I don't know, it's not like the most fulfilling thing. I enjoy training inherently, but
Mm. Okay, interesting. What what do you enjoy like most about the whole process, would you say?
the active training.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Like if I never built another pound of muscle, I wouldn't care. I would still continue to do hypertrophy style training.
Yeah, yeah, you enjoy it. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Um, I want to veer back to the type 1 diabetes, if that's okay, Zach. So yeah, I think it's really cool it's that you're trying to educate people on this topic. Because it's a topic that I think, yeah, most people obviously will be aware of, but they won't know like the ins and outs and all the details of it. Can you give the listeners like a brief insight into your type 1 diabetes? So when you
Mm,
found out and just your journey living with it from the
yeah.
start?
I got it at 22 years old. It started off as experiencing the classic symptoms of being incredibly thirsty. Um, and the thirst is unimaginable. Like
Really?
whatever the thirstiest you've ever been, because it's like so. What causes the thirst is that your body's trying to secrete elevated potassium levels and elevated sugar levels. It's
Right.
you have the high blood sugar and your kidneys trying to reabsorb it, and it's flushing it out through the urine. And during the process of ketoacidosis, you end up with acidic blood due to ketone bodies becoming a primary energy source.
Yeah.
And a side effect of that is that your body tries to push hydrogen ions into the cells to induce a less acidic state.
Right.
In order for the hydrogen ions to pass through, potassium has to come out, and so you end up in this hyperkalemic state, and your body ends up flushing out a lot of the potassium in your body. And I'm going on a tangent because I like talking about diabetes stuff,
Mm.
but
Yeah, yeah.
no, when I first got diagnosed, the energy levels plummeted. I couldn't stand in the shower towards the end of it.
Right.
It was too
Well.
exhausting. I couldn't move. you end up with this incredibly labored breathing. Like you can't even breathe efficiently anymore because your body's trying to um, again bring down the acidity levels in the body by exhaling more carbon dioxide to
Hmm.
bring the acidity down. So even breathing becomes labored.
Yeah.
And what finally pushed me to go to the ER was that my vision started to go blurry.
Hmm.
Your nervous system starts to break down due to the elevated blood sugars, and that was when I was like, something is definitely wrong.
Mm.
And
Jeez.
when I went in to get my blood tested, it topped off the finger stick. It was
Right.
over 700, which I think is like it's over 38 millimoles for the non-Americans
Right.
using the alternative measurement. And then I was immediately sent in an ambulance to the hospital where they said that if I'd waited another day, I would have gone into a coma.
Right. Wow. Jeez. That's crazy.
It wasn't. I took the news really well. It was kind of just like,
Yeah, I was going to
okay,
ask.
I'm diabetic now. I guess I have to deal with
Hmm.
that.
Yeah.
It didn't change, because you can live a normal life with the disease 100%.
Hmm.
And so it's just a matter of, I don't like to say changing your lifestyle for the disease because I don't like allowing type 1 to alter the way that somebody can live their life. I would rather people embrace the idea of improving their management so that they can live the life they would
Mm.
like to live.
Yeah.
But in doing that, in applying that to bodybuilding has been more of an interest than a struggle.
Mm.
Being able to isolate variables and tracking data and seeing what I can do to improve in that regard.
Yeah.
It's been overall like an enjoyable experience, trying to make the best out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Um, and your physique changed. Obviously this is not like my area of expertise, but that thing did happen to you where you dropped a load of muscle, didn't you? So what was it exactly that happened in that phase?
So your body, in an attempt to, because your body's starving, it's no
Yeah.
longer processing glucose, and so as an alternative energy source, it will begin to pull away your muscle tissue
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
break down protein bodies to compensate for the lack of glucose.
Hmm.
And so I lost 30 pounds over the course of a month.
A month. Wow. Geez, that's insane.
Yeah, it just melted off.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. And yeah, you were feeling like terrible alongside that, I take it at this point.
Yeah, and I was still trying to go to the gym.
Yeah.
Um, and I couldn't hit performance metrics anymore. And so I started not inventing, but doing things I'd never done before so that they were PRs by
All right.
nature of me never having done them before,
I see.
so that I can
Interesting.
continue to feel like, I was doing something. Like I was doing like 35 reps on the leg press. And it's like, yeah, it's a PR, but it's because I've never done
Yeah, that high.
35 reps.
Yeah, yeah. God, that's crazy. And then yeah, all of those things. Then the blurry vision led you to go and get checked out. What's been like
Yeah,
the biggest challenge you faced so far with like being a type 1 diabetic?
definitely work,
Okay.
because depending on the where I'm working, if I forget my like gummies, that's my go-to for low blood sugar treatments.
Hmm.
If I forget that down then at the Connex box, or where we set up our work for the day, and
Mm.
then I end up across the site, up a
Mm.
set of stairs on the other side of the building, and I start to go low,
Yeah.
it becomes an emergency.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then nobody wants to. You don't say it, but nobody in construction wants to have to deal with somebody that has to step away from work to do something.
Right.
Even though it's something that I have to do, it's a business.
Yeah.
And so, it's stressful in that I can't afford to really have those situations occur where it's like they could need me. It could be something that's time dependent.
Mm.
And if I'm stepping, like I'm going low, then it's nobody's fault, but it's a business.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes sense. Yeah, that sounds very challenging, definitely. Yeah. Um, yeah, and the camps that you're doing, you started doing those. How long after your diagnosis did you start doing those? Though?
I think it was 2.5 or 3 years after I got diagnosed was when I
Yeah,
heard
yeah.
about them.
Hmm. Yeah. Okay, got. And is that like a part-time thing you do alongside work?
No, I'll take maybe 3 or 4 total weeks a year
Oh, cool.
um
Yeah.
to go and be a counselor.
Yeah, yeah, amazing. Yeah. Are there any, out of curiosity, are there any of that the young guys who are really thinking, "Oh, I kind of want to get pretty muscular like Zach? Is that quite a common theme at all? Any of them want to get
Yeah,
into weight training?
they're always asking questions, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah.
Like how do I get big biceps is usually, the first one, or
Right.
it makes them want to do push-ups around me. It's funny. I
Mm,
like it.
yeah, yeah. In terms of like exercise and diabetes, are there any challenges that you faced or that anyone would face? I'm curious, like when it comes to exercise and diabetes, like specifically.
So your response glycemically is going to be dependent on the mode of exercise you're doing.
Right,
It's
okay.
going to have a different physiological consequence. So, like if you're doing powerlifting, which is very it can cause like your stress hormones to elevate,
Yeah.
which can cause a spike in your blood sugar during your training. But for bodybuilding, it's what's the word, anaerobic, and
Yeah, yeah.
so yeah, it's not going to cause as great of an increase, depending on if you're going heavy or whatever. But for the most part, it's going to cause a dip in your blood sugar,
Right,
and
okay,
if
yeah.
not during, then it will cause it after. So and everybody's going to have a different experience with that, and it's going to depend on your nutrition beforehand. But
Hmm.
for the most part, you're going to have to adjust your treatment based on your exercise.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. What about kind of cardiovascular training? How is that affected?
What is that?
So is in terms of cardio, so going for
Yeah,
a
what
run.
is that?
What is in how is that affected by
No, what is
Oh,
cardio?
sorry. What is cardio? Mate, classic bodybuilder. Yeah. You got me there.
No,
Mate, I was the same for most of my
yeah.
life until yeah. I actually got into running briefly in my between my two stints of bodybuilding, but
Mm.
yeah, I love it. What is cardio? Brilliant. Yeah.
No, I do low intensity stuff, and so it'll be walking for distance,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I should probably do more cardio because health reasons, but
Hmm.
I like the low intensity stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
It's easier to deal with from a treatment standpoint, and it's
Yeah.
physically easier. So
Yeah, yeah, no, it is. Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. I'm the same. So yeah, Zach, I wanted to delve into the slightly more contentious topic of all the fake natty stuff that you've
yeah.
been going. This is an area that I've discussed with a few guests, and I've had the fake natty stuff aimed at me too. And
Mm.
yeah, I don't like to bring it up too often because I don't think there's a great deal to be learned there. The thing is, I've seen a lot of physiques in my time, and looking at your own, it doesn't matter how much gear people take, they're not going to have like your lat insertions, your small waist, your muscle bellies, and your overall structure.
Right.
Drug use doesn't change that. That's the thing, and I think a lot of people don't understand. It's not going to change your overall structure.
Yeah.
There is like a look though. I think there is a look that slightly enhanced guys do have. And I don't mean like top level pros, but I think regular gym goers, there's like a graininess to them. There's a slightly different look that
Yeah.
differentiates those guys from us, I think. But yeah, I think also like another factor is just people not understanding, how genetically gifted people can be. Bodybuilding is not it's not fair. Some of us are
Right.
yeah, there's a big spectrum when it comes to genetics and so many factors that affect how people look. What is your message to people who say, "Oh no, you're on gear or you're taking insulin, you can't be natty"? So I've
Right.
looked into this. I have my own views, and obviously, yeah, yeah, I think those people are largely ridiculous. But yeah, I'd like to hear your take on this.
In terms of which part.
Yeah, so in terms of how do you take all these like fake natty accusations? How do, yeah.
The fake natty stuff I've kind of weaponized for my own ends because, of
Yeah.
course, my posts are intended to induce rage sharing.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
my whole goal with social media was to uh, drive funds towards memories made and
Hmm.
create an environment for type 1 diabetes awareness. And
Mm.
so I was able to generate buzz
Yeah.
with the rage baiting posts, and it's worked pretty well. Like
Yeah.
last month, I was able to donate $500 through Gorilla Mind.
Amazing.
to the memories made, and they're
Yeah.
actually going to be matching it now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Oh,
whatever I
great.
can generate, it goes towards charity. So
Mm.
the fake natty accusations, they're compliments that benefit
Yeah.
my end. So
So
that raids away, I guess.
right.
But
Yeah.
the insulin stuff, what people fail to take into account is that chronic insulin usage above what is needed induces a state of insulin resistance.
Mm.
There are studies where they'll take a non-diabetic and they'll give them insulin,
Mm.
and the end result is insulin resistance, of course. And so, if somebody's, I don't think it's possible for a non-diabetic or for a diabetic, unenhanced person to abuse insulin. I don't think there's a benefit to be gained.
Yeah.
And if they were taking more insulin than they needed, they would be forced into a state of having to continuously increase and increase and increase their insulin dosage
Right.
due
Yeah.
to the downstream effects of insulin resistance.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Um, no, that makes sense. Out of curiosity, do you know of any other bodybuilders who are type one? Is it quite rare or not?
Um, I know Jason Poston is type 1, but for no, I think he's the only one
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I
that I
imagine
know of at least.
there must be a few. Um, yeah, it must. Yeah, because the thing is the whole like fake natty stuff. I suppose you can take it one of two ways. You can either let it annoy you, or just like you're doing. You're actually turning it into a positive. I didn't know that. That's a
Right.
really good thing.
I thought it
Um,
was obvious, but people
yeah,
people
yeah,
don't
yeah.
realize it.
No, no, it's yeah. No, I think that's really, really good what you're doing. Something I want to chat about actually. I noticed maybe 1 or 2 years ago the whole CGM thing was becoming popular, just with the general population. Like, what's your I don't for myself I don't see much practical use for like someone who doesn't have type 1 to wear a CGM. For me, it kind of reminds me of when people who are non-celiac are just going down the I'm gluten sensitive issue.
Right.
But I don't know.
Yeah.
Is there any practical application for someone who doesn't have diabetes to wear a CGM at all?
So here's the thing. For health markers, I'm a healthy person, right? So there's no a doctor looking at me isn't going to say that I would have to improve on much to be a healthier person.
Hmm.
And I have type 1 diabetes. Glycemically, my best day is going to be worse than a non-diabetic's worst day.
Right.
And so, what utility is there in them monitoring their blood sugar when I am there's there's I have a ton of hyperglycemic events, and
Mm.
it's not a net detraction on my ability to make progress in the gym or be a healthy person. And so it's like I would rather see people spend their money on things that have more utility than to see because the information you're going to gain is
Hmm.
stuff you could have Googled. Like I ate a
Yeah.
bagel and
Yeah.
my blood sugar went up, and it's like you didn't
Mm.
need the CGM to tell you that that was going to happen. And I don't think there's a fine tuning of your glycemic response
Mm.
and because that's what the net effect is going to be, right? People cut out high glycemic foods that are
Yeah.
high on the glycemic index,
Mm.
thinking that high blood sugar is bad, but I don't think there's a usefulness in that because high glycemic foods have usefulness.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't only need slow digesting carbs. You can have utility in fast digesting carbs.
Yeah. Yeah. And I suppose yeah, foods are just carbohydrates aren't eaten in isolation, aren't they? They're eaten amongst other food sources
Right.
as well. But yeah, no, I always thought it just seemed a bit strange when the general population started wearing them. And yeah, I'd be curious. Yeah, I wanted to hear your take on that. So yeah, no, that makes sense. Um, yeah, going back to the whole kind of gear stuff, I think, and here's the thing, I think because of how you look, I'm convinced you would still get the fake genetic stuff regardless. I think obviously you're incredibly gifted for bodybuilding. I think it just happens to be you've got great structure, you've trained for quite a long time, you put the work in, and you're type one. So I think it's like the perfect storm for all these people, and they just can't
Right.
handle it, really. I think that's what
Yeah.
it boils down to.
That's what made me post the I have this thing called an old pics highlight on my page, and it was I was like 15 or 16 years old,
Mm,
1 year of training, and I looked like like a men's physique competitor of a
yeah, yeah,
decade.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's true. Yeah, I saw those pictures. I thought, yeah, your physique was crazy. Yeah, back in the day. Um, moving on to your prep, Zach. So, you mentioned that you're just a few weeks in. What shows are you planning on doing this year?
I think the only one I've like 100% committed to so far is ANBF Ocean State.
Okay, yeah,
That'll be
AMBF
in
is it?
Rhode Island
Yeah,
in
okay,
August.
yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, and prep's going well so far. I suppose it's early days, but yeah,
Yeah, it's going as well as it can, you know. And then as a tentative goal is to try to make it to WMBF Worlds,
right, yeah,
but
okay.
we'll see how that goes.
So you mentioned you went to the Worlds last year in or was it the year before? Just
It
as a
was
spectator.
this past year as a spectator,
Yeah, 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 in Boston. Yeah, yeah,
which
yeah.
is heart-wrenching because I wish I could committed to competing that year. Then I
Right.
could have just driven 30 minutes to Boston instead of
Oh,
potentially have to fly to LA.
oh no. Oh, that's tough. Yeah, yeah. And you're doing open bodybuilding, I take it, or classic.
I think I'm going to do both
Really? Ah, interesting.
because I
Mm.
don't know which one appeals to me more. So
hmm Yeah, yeah. Are you doing all the posing practice? Have you started that yet, or are you going to wait until a bit later on?
um, a little bit of posing practice, nothing too crazy yet. You know,
Yeah, that's still
I kind of want
obviously
to see. It's tough to get good at posing when you can't see what's going on.
right.
You
Okay,
know,
but
as the fat comes off.
yeah, yeah. It makes more sense. Yeah. You're still looking fairly lean. In terms of like body weight, how much can you foresee you dropping from here? Because you're still, maybe it's just your structure, but you're looking like pretty lean currently.
I think we're aiming for like the low 180s.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
that would be like another 20 pounds.
Okay. So like a fair amount, but not, yeah, not a huge amount. Um, okay, cool. Uh, I wanted to ask that. So obviously when you first got started in bodybuilding, who were like your big inspirations at the time?
Definitely Alberto when I first started. 'Cause
Hmm
I'm very glad that he started posting, you know,
Right.
such an early time. He was a big impact on me, just to his almost I don't want to say lackadaisical approach, but like just a real approach. It wasn't like you got some glory and going to war. It was we're trying to be better.
Yeah.
And so that like grounded mindset was very appealing to me.
hmm
Um, but the other bodybuilding, I've never really followed bodybuilding very much. Like
mm
natural or advanced, I've never really followed it. So I don't really have too many. I mean, now that I'm into it, I guess I really look up to Oscar Muscat and guys
mm.
like Dirk Emmerichs and
Yeah.
Gary Emlinger. But
hmm
no, early on it was just like the YouTube fitness guys.
Yeah, yeah. Yes, yeah, because I think I was about a similar time, maybe like 2013, 2014 was when I got into it. And yeah, 3DMJ were kind of on the rise then. And you're right, they've got a very kind of practical approach to things, don't they? And
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
I think
not
those,
like glitz and glamour or
no,
flashy. It's just yeah,
yeah, it's just get the work done and yeah,
mm,
improve. And I think, yeah, those, I don't know if you've seen like the Eric Helms videos from back in the day, like the nutritional and the training pyramids. I think they're still some of
hmm
the best videos on YouTube ever. They're so, so good.
yeah,
I think they're foundational for any lifter, in my opinion.
yeah. The books as well, very good.
Oh, I
Very
haven't
like
actually got
you
the
can.
books. Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I abided by
yeah, yeah.
for my training. Really, I didn't really make any programs out of it, but the principles of it, yes.
Yeah, they're so, so important. Yeah. For me, Matt Ogus was another one. I think you might have mentioned
Mhm.
him, but yeah, he kind of approached it from like a bodybuilding is fun kind of angle. And
Yeah.
yeah, he was, yeah, obviously a very aesthetic physique and a big like YouTube star at the time. But
Mhm.
yeah, he was a big inspiration of mine. So yeah, that's cool. Yeah, obviously you're in very good hands with Berto coaching you. In terms of your goals, do you have like competitive goals this year? What's the aim? I'm curious to hear.
Just getting on stage.
Yeah.
Um, I still struggle with a motivation to like a meaning in competing. You know, so
Right.
it's very much just towards the goal of type 1 awareness and trying to help the diabetic kids out. But
Mm,
and I don't find much motivation in broad goal setting. I
Mm,
kind of just like to be process focused and do
yeah.
what I can, and what happens happens.
Mm, yeah. No, that makes sense, and I think it's yeah, it's quite unique what you're doing, I think, as well. It's quite a unique goal you have. So yeah, yeah. Yeah, so because it's different, because some people think, oh yeah, I have to go, I have to win. Yeah, winning is like the
Mhm.
only goal. But yeah, it seems a bit different with yourself, and that's yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
winning would be relative, so it's like
mm,
if you have a bunch of people for the rest of your career that are 10 places above you,
mm,
it doesn't reflect poorly on you as a bodybuilder. But if you have 10 people that are below you, it's the same thing. It just feels better.
yeah, yeah. No, that's true. Um, moving on to your training, Zach, what does that look like currently? What's like your current split look like?
It's so for the first maybe 10, 12 years of training, it was just a bro split.
Yeah.
Um, no, I don't tie body parts to days of the week. If I
Okay.
hit a body part and then my legs are recovered, then I'll hit my legs. If they're not recovered, I'll hit my back. And I've
Mm,
done that for 10 to 12 years. And then when Alberto started programming for me,
mhm.
I stopped doing that for a while, and then I would tweak his program, and then I would tweak it, and I would end up doing a recovery-based bro split again.
Right,
So,
right. Yeah, okay. Okay, interesting. So how many days a week are you currently training?
anywhere from 4 to 6 days, I'd say.
4 to 6. Yeah. Okay. Um, okay, interesting. What are your favorite muscle groups to train generally?
The next one,
The next ones.
whatever's next.
Okay, so everything. Yeah, yeah, I love it because it's yeah, there are some bodybuilders who just don't enjoy training certain body parts, which I find yeah, I find interesting. To be fair, I think
I'd say
calves.
biceps is the most boring muscle to tune.
Mm, yeah,
Like
I've
in
heard.
terms of um, at a decent arousal state. Like in terms of it gets you hyped up. I'm not going to get hyped up for a set of preacher curls. I'm sorry,
Yeah, yeah.
you know.
Yeah, I half agree with you because it's not. Yeah, yeah. Agree with that, but then I like the pump. After for me, like doing calves is like the ultimate
Yeah.
expression of that because it's like, yeah, great, you get a calf
Mhm.
pump, but who cares? It's like a yeah. So yeah, that
Right.
kind of makes sense. But yeah, yeah, you go into a heavy set of squats or a leg press, and yeah, you need to be in the zone, don't you? I think that is
Hmm.
key. You don't need to be in the zone for calves or biceps.
Right. Yeah.
In terms of the whole raising awareness of type 1, I'd love to know like what are your kind of big picture plans when it comes to that? Have you got like a broader plans? Obviously, it's still quite early with you in that domain. Have you got any
Hmm.
any bigger plans?
Bigger plans? No, because I don't know the direction that it's going to take me, and I don't know what avenues would best serve that purpose. And
Mm,
so for now, it's just the ones that I suppose would be like that I can see through my experience, like having a positive impact online, getting reassurance of that by people messaging me, commenting, interacting with me,
mm,
people in the diabetic group chats I've made,
yeah.
seeing that, trying to foster an online community similar to the ones that are at camp, where people are like,
Mm,
I have people that speak the same language to me now,
yep,
and
yep.
and then obviously the charity wants a quantifiable goal to where it's there isn't necessarily an end goal to that. It's just continuing to be better at it.
Yeah. Oh, that's a really cool message. Yeah. Yeah, 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 that's brilliant. Yeah, well, I wish you all the best with that endeavor. I think it's a really, really good thing what you're doing. And that actually sums up everything I wanted to ask you. But we're going to do some quick fire questions next, Zach. So,
Sure.
bit off topic, but what is your favorite film?
Probably 12 Angry Men.
Oh, you know what? I haven't seen that. Remind me, what's that?
It's
What's
a
that about?
it's a very old flick.
Okay.
It's black and white. It's about it's viewers that are discussing the guilt of somebody that may or may not have committed a crime.
Oh,
And
okay.
it's all filmed in one room, and
Right.
it's a great movie.
Oh, interesting. I'll have to check out. I have heard of it, but yeah, I haven't
Yeah.
seen that film. Next question. What are your hobbies outside of bodybuilding, Zach?
Reading fantasy is probably my number one hobby when I'm not
Okay.
lifting.
Fantasy, you're saying?
and it's for like Lord of the Rings stuff. That's what
Yep.
started it, was Lord of the Rings. But
Hmm.
currently, I'm reading the Austin Ard series.
Right, right, okay.
Um, my favorite series ever, that's I think has surpassed Lord of the Rings for me, is Malazan, Book of the Fallen.
Right,
It's a
right.
gigantic series. Like I think there's kind of like 23 books,
Hmm.
and it goes over like 600,000 years of history. It's insane.
Wow,
The scope of
okay.
the book is crazy, but it's an incredibly well written.
Amazing. Okay. Yeah, it's funny actually because my wife is really into reading fantasy. She's read quite a few. I'm gonna have to mention that one
Mm,
to her. Whereas, yeah, I find it hard. I love sci-fi and I love reading
yeah,
sci-fi books, but I haven't. Yeah, for me, I find it a bit harder to get in the world of fantasy.
I feel like they're very much like two sides of the same coin,
Mm,
fantasy and sci-fi, because I feel like they
yeah.
usually have like a chosen one,
Hmm.
and somebody that wants to annihilate the world, and then people that don't want that to happen. And it's very,
Yeah, yeah.
I feel like they're very similar veins.
They are. Yeah, I think it's just the setting. I just yeah, orcs and dragons and that. I find it hard to conceptualize, get my head around. But
Yeah,
have you read any sci-fi books out of curiosity that stick with you?
not yet, but I want to get into Discworld. I think that counts as sci-fi.
Okay, yeah, I've heard of that. I haven't read it. I'd
Or the
recommend
Dune
the
series I want to get into.
what one, sorry?
Dune,
The June. Oh yeah, yeah. I've read the
that's
first.
sci-fi, right?
Yeah, that's definitely sci-fi. Yeah, yeah. I've
Yeah.
read the first book. The Expanse books are really good as well.
Mhm.
There's a TV show now that's kind of really hard sci-fi. And the Red Rising is another good one. But that's a bit of
Yeah.
fantasy-ish, Red Rising, to be fair.
Yeah.
Um, last question, Zach. So what piece of advice would you give to your younger self?
Um, Try to be happier sooner.
Okay. Okay.
That would have been nice to hear.
Hmm.
Try to find what it is to be happier sooner.
Yeah. What do you think held you back in that regard?
Probably pursuing the wrong things and not
Hmm.
realizing what should have been more important to me. But I'm still 27, so it's
Yeah, yeah.
like yeah,
You're young. Yeah, yeah. No,
right.
that's interesting. Yeah. Um, well, look, Zach, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for yeah taking the time out to chat with
Yeah,
me.
of course, dude. Thank you for taking the time. And
No, no, no,
it's been
really,
good.
no, I really appreciate this. I know, yeah, I've enjoyed this chat a lot. Yeah, so thank you guys for watching. I'll link uh everything you've mentioned in the show notes for this as well, Zach.
Cool,
Um,
cool. Thank you.
and yeah, thank you guys for watching and for listening, and we'll see you next time.